Everyone. Welcome to our call. I don't know where I disappeared, but I'm talking. But what I am going to do is I am going to ask Karen, will you go ahead and put our candidates into the spotlight right now, please? So we have a few things. We're going to get right in here, but thank you all. We're already up to 239. As I said a few minutes ago, we end up having maybe 480, 90 people that have signed up. So they are interested in learning about our candidates and who might be representing us and leading the party for the next year and possibly longer, however that might work. Let me just give you a couple guidelines so that you know what we're doing and how it's working, and that we can get right into it, because so much, this whole hour is completely full. So we are, number one, there is no chat except for it's going to, I believe, me and possibly Karen. Are you seeing the chat? Can you see that? I might have to go in here. We're not doing any chat. We are going to have everybody muted except for our candidates, myself and Karen. And then we will be, the candidates, you guys have all been, I know that Bill's somewhere around, but you have all been given the details, but I'm going to go over it real quick so our listeners will know what the guidelines are. What are the ground rules that we have here going on right now? So you guys are spotlighted. This was something new that we just figured out how to do so that everyone would be able to see you guys, because you are on the hot seat for the next hour. Each candidate is going to have 3 minutes to introduce himself, and that will start out in alpha order. Then we're going to go into 4 questions. I mean, I wish we would have had a lot more time, but we're going to do 4 questions, possibly 5, so it could be there. We're going to allow the candidates to have 2 minutes each, and then there will be a closing, and they'll each be able to close with a minute. This is an exciting time. We're very happy that all 4 of you have decided to step up. We're glad you're here. What we really are trying to do is that we are wanting you, the participants, to listen, to figure out who best represents you. And then what you're going to do is you have to communicate to your SREC members who you would like to see be the leader of the Republican Party of Texas. And that information, the link to that was on the emails that were sent out to tell you about signing up for today's call. So the first 3 minutes, Bill, are you able to talk now? I think Bill is still having some technical difficulties at this point. So we will end up, somebody just asked about the candidate information. Each one in the, let me back up. In the email that was sent out, each one had a picture. And I think the 3 had links, Matt, Dave, Chad. Bill, I'm not sure we had a link because I'm not sure where to send it, but there's a link there that you can go directly to them and communicate with them and ask questions, because there were a number of questions. We couldn't get them all. We tried to consolidate, but now you are going to have to, after this call, go to them directly. So let's get started. I am going to wait for Bill at this point. Dave, am I going to have to ask you to unmute again, huh? There you go. Okay, let's see. Are you unmuted now? Okay. So we are going to start. All right, Bill, I still can't hear you at this point. So I will call on you when we get going here, okay? So Dave, we're in alpha order. So you're next after Bill. Burch is one of our candidates. Then it's Dave Covey, who you see here. Then we'll have Matt Rinaldi, and then Chad will wrap it up on the intro. And then I'm going to mix it up for the questions, and I will explain that in just a minute once we get into there. So Dave, I'm going to turn it over to you. And oh, by the way, we have Karen. Actually, Karen, I think I want to put you on spotlight too. Now, Karen is our timekeeper. she's going to hold up the yellow sign for 30 seconds, and then the red sign means stop. So we're trying to keep it moving along is what we're working here. Okay, so Dave, we're going to start you out first. So, and you can get started.
All right. Well, thank you, Tony Ann, and thank you to all the viewers who are here watching with us live, or those who will join in the recording later. I'm David Covey, and I'm running to be your next Republican Party of Texas chairman. Texas needs a strong Republican Party so that we can fight the anti-American policies of President Biden. And Texas needs a strong Republican Party so that we can grow the grassroots structure of the party, but also pass the legislative priorities of the Republican delegates. I'm a native Texan. I'm a Christian. I'm a conservative. I come from a large family in Southeast Texas. I'm the second out of 8 children. My mom's a teacher. My dad is an engineer. They chose to homeschool all of their kids. And so I grew up with a love for our history, a love for our country, and a love for our state. And at an early age, I began volunteering, putting out campaign signs. On election day, we would get up early and put out signs at the polls. And later in the day, we'd take cold bottles of water to those who were working the polls. I have served as a precinct chair, as county chair. I'm currently SREC for Senate District 3 and president of the Texas Republican County Chairman Association, where I've heard from county chairs across the state what are the resources they're asking for, like a first movers list. I have served as a Senate caucus chair, and in presidential years as a congressional caucus chair. I've been chairman of the nominations committee at state convention, and in 2016 was a national delegate for President Trump. So I've served in almost every position in the party, and I've come to love the people that I've worked with and the friends that I've made, and seeing the opportunity that it gives me and my family. Professionally, I worked as a policy aide for the Texas Senate and learned the legislative process. I do have a law degree, but I don't practice law. I'm a consultant in the oil and gas industry and manage a multi-million-dollar portfolio. Fundraising is going to be the #1 job of the chairman. In the first 30 days, you're going to have to raise several $100,000, and I have a plan to do that. We have to have someone who has experience, who's come up through the party, and I would rather have someone that has a decade of experience in the party, coming up through the ranks, seeing it from many perspectives, than someone whose first day will be on the job. Because we have redistricting, we have a special session, we have a critical election and a convention to put together. We don't have time to do on-the-job training. I'm a Texan who loves Texas. And I'm not a celebrity, I'm a worker, and I'm here to work for you. You can find out more information on my website at covey4rpt.com. I look forward to getting to know all of you and to earning your support, and I'm thankful to be here with you this morning.
Thank you, Dave. Perfect. That was very nice. I appreciate it. Now, Matt, do I need to ask you to unmute? Okay, go ahead, Matt, there you go. Matt Rinaldi is next in order. And so Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you speak to our guest today.
Great. Thanks for having me, Tony. I really, really appreciate it. And thanks everybody for getting on at 7 a.m. in the morning and hearing our future for the Republican Party. It's so important, again, and I'm sure you're going to hear this multiple times today, to have a strong Republican Party going into the 2022 elections. I mean, politics over the past year and a half has affected us more than perhaps ever before. And we've set precedents in policy where politics is going to affect us much, much more over the next 2 to 4 years. And it's so important that in the largest Republican state in the country, we have a strong, strong Republican Party with strong foundations. Now, a lot goes into being a GOP chair. You need experience in a lot of different areas. You need managerial experience. You need fundraising experience. You need to be able to build a grassroots campaign. You need to be able to fairly administer meetings and influence policy. And I have significant experience doing all of that, as well as experience being a delegate to my Senate district convention, to state convention over the past decade, and being a precinct chair. An issue that's obviously going to come up right away is raising money will be immediately required to build the infrastructure we need to win in 2022 and to have a successful convention. As a candidate for office, I've raised millions of dollars. And I was actually one of the top fundraising state representatives in office in both 2016 and 2018 election cycles. And I've raised money not only from conservatives, but from donors all over the ideological spectrum. And a lot of donors who haven't donated to the Republican Party before. I think I can broaden our fundraising base and raise the money we need immediately and in the first 2 months to have a successful convention, a successful 2022. And I have a track record that proves that I'm actually capable of doing that. I'm also a strong believer that a chairman has to respect the SREC, administer meetings fairly, and respect the rules, which are pretty empowering to individual members when they're actually observed. As a state legislator who served under a speaker who didn't always offer members respect and fairness, I've witnessed firsthand the detrimental effects it has on a body and how it creates needless conflict. And I think I can alleviate some of that conflict. We also still have special sessions to go, and it's clear we have an opportunity to pass several additional GOP priorities. I think we've heard from delegates across the state they've enjoyed the increased involvement of party leadership over the past several sessions. We have to be ready to engage the legislature again this year, but not at the detriment of readying the party for the 2022 election cycle. Our legislative priorities matter, though, and as chairman, I'd have a unique perspective, having been in the legislature before. I think we can more effectively engage the legislature and advance our legislative priorities with me as chair. And I hope to do that as your chair as well. So thank you for coming to the forum today, and thank you for listening to all of us. I appreciate it. David, I don't know how you tied a tie at 7 a.m. in the morning, but I admire you for that.
Thank you, Matt. We appreciate it. That's impressive, I have to say. We got to say it is impressive. So, and let's go ahead and move over to Chad Wilbanks, who is also running. So, Chad, you take it away, please.
Tony Ann, thank you so much, for hosting this candidate forum, so the grassroots get to hear from each of the candidates directly. A couple of things people should know about me first, and most importantly about my life, is I've been married for 27 years. I have 2 kids in college and have a sweet little girl going to 9th grade at Lake Travis High School. I've also attended every GOP state convention since 1992, with one exception, and that was in 1996 when I was employed at the Republican National Committee. In 1999, my wife and I decided to move back to the Lone Star State to have an 8th generation son, 8th generation Texas son. And I was lucky enough to work for the Republican Party of Texas in 3 different capacities. First as political director, then as deputy executive director, and then eventually as executive director. Now, as political director and deputy executive director during the 2002 election cycle, we raised over $17 million. That allowed us to train grassroots, support our candidates, so much so that we elected a Republican House, a then record number of Republicans, to the Texas House, and took control away from the Democrats for the first time in 132 years. In 2004, we ended up electing more Republicans than we ever had before in the Lone Star State, so much so that today, Texas still has more Republican congressmen than any other state in the union. In fact, we have more Republican congressmen than about 1/3 of the states combined. But importantly, as executive director, we put on a convention, and for the first time ever, we raised over $1 million for the state convention. And just as important, we left that convention debt-free. After 2004, I started my own business, been in business for 17 years, and I also have a little side business called the GOP Leadership Conference. I did that because I'm a believer in our message of conservative training and values and thoughts. So what we did, the GOP Leadership Conference, we started training legislative staffers. We've done this for the past 11 legislative sessions to teach these young staffers how to think politically in the policy arena. We also put on campaign schools for potential campaign managers. These schools started off being 6 days a week. We went for 16 to 18 hours a day. We gave them homework every night. And then on our last day, we had them present a campaign plan. Some of the students that graduated from our course ended up managing Senator Cruz's senatorial and presidential races. We've had others work as communications director for multiple U.S. senators. We've had others gone on to run congressional races, state legislative races, judicial races all over the country. We even had some become executive director. I'm running to be your Republican Party of Texas chairman because I understand how party committees work. It's easy to say we're going to raise millions of dollars here and there. But the truth is, the fundraising takes place in different buckets. You have your corporate fundraising that pays for administrative staff and administrative expenses and educational training. Then you have your state and federal bucket that really helps support our candidates that we need to elect at the end of the day. I'm Chad Wilbanks, and I'm running to be your Republican Party of Texas chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. We can see that we have three incredible candidates here. Somebody had asked who's going to vote for them. And before we get into the questions, let me just do a real quick summary on that. So on July 11th, the SREC members, your SREC members, will gather in the Dallas area to vote. So there's 64 votes, and they will be together, or 63 actually. They will come together July 11th, and they're the ones that will elect our next chairman. But that doesn't mean they can't hear from you. And that's why we have this forum, and why you have multiple forums out there that you need to get to know them, because you have a voice through them. So you need to get your SREC member, when you make a decision who you think is going to best represent you, you go to them and ask them to vote for the person you think is the most qualified. So let's move on down. I see that Bill's still working on it. And so as soon as he can, he will join us. But also just to let you, Jerry, I see you have your hand up, but we're not taking any questions. This is kind of a quiet, everyone's quiet out there except for our candidates. Oh, and me too. Okay, so let's go to our first question. So I'm going to establish like a little ground rules here. I'm going to read off who is going to, the order that they're going to be answered. And then Karen will be, or one of us will be able to move it to the next person. So I'm not sure, Karen, if we're going to be able to get this up, but to be able to show the question, we had all great aspirations of typing up the question and having it out there for everyone to see. It's not going to work. So we are flexible. So this is your first question. And Dave, you're going to be number one, even though you were one last time, it'll change a little bit. Matt, you're number two, and Will. We're going to go kind of like in the same order, only because we have a little change in plans here. So this is your question. Tell all of us, what is your management and leadership achievements that you have, and the goals that you have, that you're going to take those achievements and the goals you have for RPT, and describe your time commitment you will make to accomplish those goals for the RPT. Did you get that? Oh, sorry. I love having control here. I just want you to know. There you go, Dave.
There you go. You can hear me now.
I can hear you now.
Yes. So to answer that question, I've looked at the finances of the party and been looking at what are the engagements that we have to make over the next 9 months to a year to prepare for a convention, but also for the election, special session, and redistricting. And I truly believe, Tony Ann, that we need a full-time chairman. And so I am willing to make that commitment and to come on. I think that we need to run the party like a business. And so we need to set up our staff and our structure and make sure that we're treating it professionally, we're responsive. And I think that takes someone who is fully committed, has skin in the game. And so I'm willing to make that commitment for the long haul, and also to run, if the delegates were good enough to see me as their chair, to run for re-election at convention. I think we need to keep on building the party and the structure. And so one of the things that I would like to see that's a little bit new is to add what I'm calling a chairman's council. And that's to bring people with experience around the chairman to help give additional advice, experts in the field of fundraising, in the field of get out the vote, convention, legislation. So what I would see if I were elected is putting people like our National Committee man, National Committee woman. I would invite people like Matt and Chad to join in this council and to help us bring experts in every field together. Because, you know, I've been using this word synergy, which is that the outcome is greater than the sum of the individual parts. That is, if we will work together and focus on working together, we will get more accomplished. And so that would be my focus. My I guess type of leadership is what I call transitional leadership. And so you know, it's transformational. It's putting the right people in the right places to do the job and letting them go and working together as a team.
Great, thank you. And so that was for 2 minutes. And I think, thank you, Dave, I appreciate that. And I do believe that Karen, she's a master. If you can all see in your chat what she put up, and that was the question that we have asked here. So Bill, are you on now?
I'm on. If you can hear me, I'm on the phone.
Yes, we can hear you, Bill. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. You can look at the chat and see the question, but I'm going to go to Matt, Chad, and then I'll come back to you, okay? To answer the first question.
I have the opportunity to give the 4-minute intro.
No, it's only 3 minutes and not right now. We're in the question right now, and then I will go after this question, okay?
That'll
Okay.
be fine.
Okay, thank you. Matt, so you see the question that's there in the chat? And if you, or I read it, if you could go forward, please.
Yes. I have extensive, I mean, obviously, as David said, management and administration is going to be 99% of the time commitment you're going to give with the Republic of Texas. I have extensive experience in politics, 4 years as a legislator, during which I had many legislative accomplishments, and as a manager of a business. I'm both on the board of directors of a publicly traded company with a market capitalization of $300 million. We own properties that employed 14,000 people before COVID. Now it's much less, unfortunately. I'm also the chief legal officer of a small business that employs 300 employees and do extensive management responsibilities as well with that business. So I'm experienced in running organizations. I'm experienced in managing people, and my management style is one of delegation. I think anytime you're running a large business like this, you have to hire the right people and delegate tasks. My goals with RPT are, first of all, to raise $5.5 million this year, to have a successful convention, and to build the infrastructure for the 2022 elections. One of the issues that I had as a candidate was in the 2016, 2018 election cycles, I was in a swing district and generally organized an entire grassroots campaign with fundraising myself. But RPT wasn't as consequential as it could have been in those elections. I know Texans for Greg Abbott was very involved. They would do block walks, they would provide us block walkers, but other groups like Young Americans for Liberty would provide boots on the ground in our campaign and do grassroots organizing. And I think RPT can do a lot of those things too as well, because that boots on the ground is what won us the 2020 campaign, or at least kept us from losing any ground in 2020. And it's going to win in 2022 as well. And it's time commitment. I'm willing to put a full-time time commitment in.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. Okay, Chad, we're going to go with you next.
Tony, and thank you. When we talk about management experience, I go back 20 years ago when we had 49 employees or 45 plus employees at the Texas GOP. We're raising $17 million. The reason we're successful is because we're able to delegate appropriately and put people in the right position. Now, since that time, I've been in business for 17 years, so I must be doing something right, with a side business for training young staffers. And so, the hustle and hard work is the most important aspect of it. But I look at the Texas GOP a little bit differently than some of my opponents. I view our campaign organization as a small business. And so the role of chairman is really to collaborate with our board of directors, SREC, on the mission statement, the goals, objectives, and other priorities that they may have, and work with them to put that message out there. You hire the best, you fire the rest, and you make sure staff implements the goals of the board of directors at the party. But doing that doesn't just rise, it doesn't just rise like a phoenix out of the ashes to be successful. It takes hard work and determination to get done. And it takes somebody with some party experience to understand that you can't just raise money overnight. My pledge to everybody on this call, we'll raise $100,000 in the first 10 days to go towards convention corporate dollars. And we're going to raise our federal dollars and state dollars to make sure that we give our candidates the support they need in the elections so that candidates don't stand alone. The role of chairman in the party is really three things. Number one, raise money to support our candidates. Number two, communicate our message of liberty and freedom and promote the platform. And number three, elect good candidates to office so we can pass good laws and we can repeal bad laws. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. I appreciate it. Bill, are you ready to answer the first question? Did you see it in your chat?
3 minutes. 3 minutes, right?
Okay. Okay. So you want to do, okay, go. No. We are going to do, we only are answer questions are only 2 minutes is what they are.
Okay.
Okay. And you saw the question.
Yes.
Okay. So if you could please, you have 2 minutes to answer the question.
Super. My name's Bill Burch, and I've got 46 years experience in the Republican Party. Part of what I've done and will continue to do is when Steve Ministeri was first elected, we were in deep trouble financially. I took Steve around the state to meet people in Houston, in Midland, Odessa, and in Dallas. I didn't raise the money, he did, and he did a fabulous job. All I did at that time was introduce him to the people. And I intend to continue to do that. I have faith that I can raise $38 million, including $10 million at the convention. I have experience in doing this. I was setting up a big convention where I had $10 million committed for the booth space. I do not want to charge any of the candidates in there. I want to bring the money in from Ford Motor Company, from JP Morgan Chase, and other companies. If we do this, we will have enough money to help our candidates. I don't want candidates giving me money for the party. I want us to give candidates the money because then we have greater influence with the candidates when the time comes. We need to be working to get our candidates elected. I brought in the Asian community in North Texas to meet with Steve Ministeri. That's the first time that had ever been done. And getting things accomplished, we brought in the Tea Party whenever they were against us, and that was from Waco North in order to get them involved with our Republican leadership. And I intend to continue to do that kind of stuff. We went with David Dewhurst and brought in the Tea Party leaders to talk to the governor, lieutenant governor, in order to let them know what our issues were. And we did that with the Spanish community, the Hispanic community, telling them what they were doing. And as chairman of the GRIP, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. Bill, I think instead of going into you giving your intro, I'm going to expand your closing just a little bit. You'll be the first one to close, but I'll expand that just a little bit only so that we can move on with our questions, okay?
Sure.
Okay, thanks for being flexible. Okay, so let's go on to our second question, and that is going to be a 2 minute again. And it says, this has to do with fundraising. And so the question is, what would be your pitch when you go to a major donor to try to pull in money? I know that you're going to do this, but what would that pitch be? And then what I would like you to do is describe in detail what is your most effective fundraising method that you will. Granted, you can bring in money, but what is it that you're going to do? Let's hear more details on this. So the first one, we're going to go, this is the order, will be Matt, Chad, Bill, and Dave. So Matt, you get to start us off.
Well, our pitch to major donors is going to be the big picture. I mean, we are in one of the most important election cycles of our nation's history. I know it's cliche to say at this point, but it's true. You have to see most of these donors either work for businesses, own businesses that have been closed over the past year. Politics is very, very integral to their lives, to their livelihood, to their family's livelihood, to their children's livelihood. And I think we need to appeal to that, both with the severity of the situation and to show that the Republican Party is prepared to and is going to be equipped to, under my leadership, to be equipped to deal with those crises, to make their lives better and to make their children's lives better. As far as fundraising method goes, the best fundraising method is to meet personally with people. I think you need to talk to people over the phone, raise as much money you can over the phone, raise as much money as you can from small donors. But large donors are very important. And as chair, I see the majority of my time being spent traveling the state, making pitches to donors personally and face-to-face, and selling the Republican Party and our mission to them for the 2022 election cycle and after the convention as well.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, and so now our next, Chad, you're next.
Great, thanks, Tony Ann. Well, it's real simple. You got to ask, and if you don't ask, you don't get. And so the pitch really depends on what you're after. So when you're pitching corporate donors to talk about convention, your pitch is going to be slightly different to talk about having a convention that's a rah rally that gets people excited about the Republican Party and so forth. Just keep in mind, most of your corporate donors are pro-business Republicans. And so you have to target them with a slightly different message as you want to come in for convention and pay for staff, training, office rent, and legal expenses. That can all be corporate dollars. So you need to frame your message appropriately with the corporate world. Then you have some of your individual major donors, because corporations can give unlimited money. In the state of Texas, major donors can give unlimited money as well. And so your pitch to them is a little bit more on the winning elections side of things. We want to use your money for X, Y, and Z. And also to focus a little bit on redistricting. Some major donors would be heavily focused in redistricting battles. So we need to have a redistricting account that we can focus on, make sure that we not only protect our majority, but grow our majority, given the rising numbers that we've seen in the state of Texas. And then the third one, you have to have a nice balance between your large donors and your small individual donors. And so there's a fine balance, because the small low dollar donors really play a significant role in helping keeping the trains moving on time for a political party committee. But you can't do any of this without having a plan and a vision to move forward asking for money. Thank you.
Well, you cut that off. You had 30 seconds left, but that was fine. Thank you, Chad.
I'm trying to allow us to have more questions asked.
Okay. Well, okay. So now I know, Dave, I got to unmute you. There we go. So Dave, you're up. Oh, no, wait. No, that's not true. It's Bill. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm confusing. Bill, you need to unmute yourself. There you go. Bill, there you go. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm ready.
Go for the question. It's a question about major donors and your most effective fundraising method.
Yes, I'm friends with major donors in the Midland, Odessa area. I've talked with them. They will hold a meeting of multiple multimillionaires, maybe a couple of billionaires. And I have the same effect with the people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I have two friends that helped raise $38 million for George W. Bush, and they've agreed to work with us to raise money for the party. I have another friend, a very good friend, that has raised a huge amount, millions of dollars for Marco Rubio whenever he was running for president. I have friends down in Houston that have agreed to raise money. So I will be going to these people and raising a huge amount of money, more money than we've ever had. It is an insult for Texas not to have $30 to $40 million when some of the other states do. And I can accomplish that and I can accomplish at least $10 million for the convention. I've already set one up for myself on real estate investors that unfortunately was shut down by the COVID virus, but we do have all the people that I was working with before that will come in and buy the booth space for Ford, for JP Morgan Chase, for many other companies, to where we can give the money to the candidates, give the money to the office holders, and help them to continue to do their campaigns so that we can win a lot more offices. Remember that in 2010, I was able to add 18 seats to the number of the number of House seats that we have. 18. That was through the Grassroots Institute of Texas. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, now Dave, you get to wrap this one up.
All right, Tony. And well, there's 4 different buckets that we have to have money for. We have the federal dollars, we have state dollars, we have corporate, and we have our primary account. The federal dollars, that's our gold money. And so we want to keep engaged with the grassroots and make sure that we have plenty of funds for the elections. But then we also want to have the major donors, the corporate donors. You know, they can get the big picture on Fox News. What we need to do is we need to go in with a specific plan. And so we go in and we show them how their investment is effective. For example, this past election, the RPT, the TRCCA, the TFRW, working along with Steve Monastery, we did the volunteer engagement project, and we were able to register 212,000 new Republican voters. We did it on $1.6 million. That's basically $7.90 per registration. You go to donors with specifics. You show them how their monies can make a difference, how they can shore up the base. That's how you go and you are able to raise money. You do it in person. You sit down with them face to face. That always gets the best results. I'm willing to be full-time. I'm willing to travel and make the time to do this. It's critical for our base. The other steps, I would rejuvenate the grassroots club. I would start a chairman's circle. I would have a legacy donor program. I would instruct the staff to give me a list of donors who have donated $500 or more in the past 4 years. And I would go down the list and call them and present to them our vision for the party, and then ask them for their support.
Great. Thank you, Dave. Good answers, everybody. Thank you so much. Let's move on to our third question. And Chad, you're going to start us off. Bill, you'll follow, Dave, and then Matt. Our third question has to deal with those blue areas. What is your plan that would attract more people to the Republican Party in the Valley, in urban areas, or just those blue areas? What we don't want to forget about them. So, Chad, you're going to get to go first on this.
Well, great. You know, the first thing we have to do in the Valley, since we've seen great success, is we can't just be political in political years. We have to be political and non-political years and continue our outreach with Latinos and Latinas. We can't just assume they're with us because they're pro-life or Catholic. You know, they're also hard workers. They like the Texas message. And by and large, they love the fact that President Trump was so tough on illegal immigration. So we have to keep that message up to secure our borders. Now, when we look at the urban areas, we have got to prioritize playing the urban areas. Like the wildcatters back in the old days, when they saw dry land, they thought, we have a chance to be prosperous. Same with the urban areas. We got to go in. We have a bunch of people moved from out of state in these areas. We need to make sure, we did this last cycle, that these are Republican voters come from other states, and we have to register them in our state. We have to sell our message to these people. Now, the good news for us, too, is that the Marxist Democrats are taking on the liberal Democrats in these big urban areas. That provides an opening for Republicans to come in there and share our message of safe neighborhoods, safe roads, and most importantly, safe streets. The defund the police movement has been one of the biggest disasters that we've seen from the Marxist Democrats. It's our opportunity to make sure that as pro law enforcement, back the blue Republicans, we continue to sell that message in those urban areas to move forward for the Republican Party. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Bill, I just unmuted you. You have to answer this question now, please.
I'm ready.
You're
You want to
frozen.
go?
Yes, please.
Okay, remember that my wife's maiden name was Juanita Solis. She's from Brownsville. We know many of the people, the politicians in Brownsville. I know two congressmen that I've known for many years that are Democrats that I believe that we can switch to the Republican Party. And if we do that, right now there's a 5-vote margin for the Democrats in the U.S. House. We know that we're going to win CD6, so that brings it down to 4. If I can effectively switch these two, that brings us down to even, and we can go after Nancy Pelosi now rather than later. Secondly, remember, I brought in the Asian community in North Texas, where they are strong Republicans now. Jane brought in the Hispanics, and I took the Hispanics in to meet with David Dewhurst. This was very strong. I believe that, and in doing the redistricting, whenever David Dewhurst asked me to draw the maps, I noticed side by side a Republican seat with a Democrat seat. The Republican seat, 81% Hispanic in El Paso. He won with huge turnout, and he campaigned strictly in English on Republican issues. The Democrat had very low turnout. And I looked throughout the state, census tract after census tract, and we had huge turnout. So we need to get a big turnout with the Hispanics. They will vote Republican, and as well as the Asian community. We will get the Asian community. If I got them in the North, I can get them in the South. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, now Matt.
I think the two best areas we have right now for growth in the party is number one, the Valley, and number two, the suburban areas, or the more highly dense suburban areas close to urban areas that we lost in the 2018 elections, in that fell nationwide. I mean, state after state, that we saw the same pattern. As far as the suburban areas go, those are voters that were ours before. We have names, we have voter IDs, we've mined those areas before. We need to bring them back. In the Valley, we need to actually put the infrastructure in place and give the county chairs resources to reach people who they have more people to reach than they've ever had to reach before with this last election. Ultimately, how do you reach new voters, whether it be in suburban areas, whether it be in the Valley? They're going to be motivated by issues. If you send the block walkers to their door and you don't have effective branding and you don't have issues that go along with the Republican Party brand, they're going to treat them the same as somebody who wants to clean their gutters who comes to their door. We need to stand for something, and our issues are extremely effective at appealing to new voters. I have polling from my district, which was a swing district in the last election, and issue by issue, even Democratic voters agreed with the Republican Party. I mean, as the sanctuary city ban that Governor Abbott signed into law in 2018, Hispanic voters in my district agreed with it. Democrats even favored the sanctuary city ban, and independent voters did as well. And as far as the partial birth abortion ban and defunding Planned Parenthood, Democrats in my district actually favored those policies in a dense suburban district. And Hispanics favored those policies 71-0 in a poll we took. In the end, people are going to be motivated by what changes their own life. And the Republican Party branding ultimately needs to be about issues, but with the infrastructure to effectively carry those issues to the most new voters.
Great, thanks, Matt. Okay, so Dave, did I already ask you this question, or do you want to answer this question?
Yeah, this will be my first time, so.
You go for it then.
All right, thank you. You know, we have to engage with the groups that are already on the ground. So we have to engage with groups like Legsit. We have to engage with our auxiliaries and with our partners and see what they need. as part of the TRCCAs, I've traveled down and met with the county chairs that are down in South Texas. They've been telling me actually what they need and how we can help. And I've been asking them that question. And one of the things is that, yes, we have to engage them on the issues. But what we're finding is that not all of these Trump voters are Republican voters. So we have to bring these Trump voters into the party, embrace them, make sure that they stay Republican voters. But we're also finding they're not flag waving, constitutional carrying, like probably many of us here on this call are, but they do have the same principles. And so the way we connect with them is that we tell them stories. And we tell them stories of how they can connect. So for example, we tell them on constitutional carries, if we're talking, we tell them about the African-American single mom and how she has the ability and the right to protect herself and her family, just like someone that has enough money to get a license and the time. And so we connect with people based on stories and tell them how Texas Republican conservative values make your life better. They make the life of your children better and for your family. That's the way we're going to engage them. We're going to work with the people in those communities, and that will ensure that we win back Pete Flores's Senate district, that we hold the House districts that are so important to keep the House red.
Great, thanks, Dave. Okay, so we're going to go to our fourth question, and I think it might be our last. We're going to see how the time goes right here. But this one, so Matt, you're going to be going first, and hopefully I keep this in order. Matt, Chad, Bill, and Dave. So let's see if I can remember or get that in order. But this question has to do with SREC. As we well know, because we're different across the state, that the SREC brings a unique and diversity to our to the group. And so what I want to do is to see how we can bring this group together, working together, unifying them, which is for the better of the party, but being respectful at the same time. How do you see incorporating policy to make that happen? Matt, you get to go first.
Oh.
So I kind of ad-libbed that a little bit, if you can see that, right? You ad-libbed the end of it and
threw me off when I was reading. Sorry.
Sorry.
You know, we do have a unique and diverse SREC, and, you know, being a former legislator in a Republican caucus that was as high as 97 members when I was there, you have a unique and diverse membership there as well that we had to work through. We had moderates, Republicans, conservative Republicans. We had people who differed on policy. And you know what, in the end, you need to give everybody a voice in order for a body that diverse and as diverse as the SREC to be able to work effectively. You may never agree on everything. You're never going to agree on everything. But if people feel heard and have at meetings the ability to be heard, then the body will function more effectively and people won't feel silenced. I think part of the issues you have with public disagreements, it's when people feel they have no other outlet, and I think the chairman does need to listen and give people the ability to speak at SREC meetings and let everyone be heard. And I think that's very important for any functioning body.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, Chad, you're going to come up next.
Well, great. First, I want to congratulate Karen. She typed so fast, it kind of stresses me out. She finished the typing before you finished the question, Tony Ann. Well, hey, so that's a great question, because I talked before about how the chairman works in collaboration with the SREC. And one of the things I've done is I've made my phone calls to these SREC members to share my ideas and vision to grow the party, both with financial success and electoral success. I've also asked them what's the direction they want to see the party move in. And we take some notes. You know, we talk about being a diverse SREC, but the truth is all SREC members agree about 95% on the same issues, which is where we want to be. You know, one of the things that made Abraham Lincoln such a great president was he brought some adversaries into his cabinet to have this good discussion about the best way to lead the country forward. I don't think there's a lot of adversaries on the SREC per se, but I think that words do matter and actions do matter. And so when we work together as a team to advance our missions and our goals and our objectives and hold ourselves accountable moving forward, we have to have that diverse discussion amongst each of the SRECs, from the Panhandle to the Valley, from East Texas to West Texas, and even North Texas and Central Texas as well, in the Hill Country where I live. So it's important that we get together right off the bat and have some special session meetings to lay out what the goals and objectives are for the Republican Party of Texas moving forward for the remainder of this year and then for the remainder of 2022. Thank you.
Golly, you are good. Bill, you have to unmute yourself to answer this. There you go.
Okay, you ready?
Yes, go for
Okay, great. What I understand and what I've seen is that we have three groups of people. We have the Allen West supporters, we have the James Dickey supporters, and then those in between. If I'm elected, there will not be an Allen West group, there will not be a James Dickey group, and there will not be a Bill Burch group. There will be a Republican group. Anybody in the SREC that's been cut, if you bleed red blood, you will be a Republican, as will the other people out there. I intend to publicize not myself, but everyone else. And I know that the SREC generally don't want publicity, but we need this throughout the state. We need this amongst any individual that's doing something that's a Republican. We want publicity everywhere. Well, we are creating a tsunami where people are looking everywhere at Republicans doing things. We want a tsunami event to the extent that people in other states are looking at us and wanting to emulate what we are doing. So we want to build that. We want to build that excitement within the party. And if you're doing that, everyone's united because everyone is patting each other on the back. We're all doing the happy dance and everybody is going to be fantastic and doing well. Thank you. That's all I really need.
Thank you, Bill. Dave, you get to be last again. I mean, I want you guys to know, I had this all put out together to make sure everybody was even, and I messed up. But then again, Dave, you're last.
I'm having a great time this morning, Tony Ann. This is the SREC is an incredible body. It always is. And I've had the pleasure to work with my colleagues and to see their talents. This past session has shown a lot of strengths and new ideas and things that have really grown our party. But what I think people want to see, they want to see someone who's a bottom-up chair, someone who's not always in the forefront, but you're working behind the scenes on the nuts and bolts of the party. Someone that has transparency, someone that gives availability to records, shows the progress that we're making, takes feedback and implements that. And so as I'm asking for the support of my colleagues in this race, I'm also promising to them to accept their feedback and to meet with them. And so one of the first things I would do is want to meet one-on-one with them and get their feedback and get their priorities and find out how each of us can work together to bring about the good for the Republican Party. I think it's a great body, and I have no doubt that whoever's elected, we will get behind that person and we will support them for the good of the state and for the good of our party to continue and grow our presence in Texas.
Thank you. Yes, and our country too. So thank you so much. Okay, it is 4 minutes till, and I did say I would allow Bill to have some extra minutes because he did not get to introduce himself in the front end. So I'm going to let Bill go start off. The closing is supposed to be 1 minute. And Bill, I'm going to give you 3 minutes because I didn't give you any time in the front, or you weren't on in the front. So, and then gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to close with the minute. Chad, I know I wish we could have had more. It just worked out, but you guys have been awesome. So Bill, if you could if you can unmute and close, this is your closing. This is your intro and closing is what I'm giving you time for. So start.
Great. Go if you are. Okay, my past experience, I've been in the party for 46 years. I've worked with all kinds of diverse groups, bringing them into the party. I met with the Vietnamese. They wanted to know which group they should go with, the Democrats or Republicans. And I told them straight up, if you want, you can be a Democrat, you can be King Democrat, but it doesn't matter. They're not in charge. If you want to be with a Republican, if you want to know what we're going to do for you, we're not going to do anything for you because you're a ghost. Unless you get involved and the county chairman can look out and see you being involved, you're not going to get anywhere. So what you've got to do is get involved with the party. They went out that year and they registered 10,000 Vietnamese. Andy Nguyen became the very first Republican county commissioner in the state of Texas. So we've done this. I've done this with the Hispanics. I've done this with the and with the help of my wife with the Hispanics. She's very strong in that area and brought many of the clubs into the Republican Party when she was chairman of the coalitions and the auxiliaries committee. She also brought in the high school Republicans. So we've been working with these diverse groups, and we need to have a really strong dynamic convention, which I can do, not a problem. Remember, I was the first one to go up to Steve Ministeri and say, Steve, bring on these people that are on the SREC. They may not want the recognition, but it's not for them. It's for the people out in the audience to get them involved and get them excited. So that's what we need to do, is create that excitement. Work with the legislators. Whenever they testified to the platform committee and said that the Republican legislators had never voted to endorse the Republican platform and were in fact embarrassed by it, I brought legislators in from North Texas. I brought in the SREC members, county chairs, and members of the platform committee, where we went over the platform with them and let them know why we needed certain things established. And so we can unite the party. We can get the legislation done. I've already talked to the governor office about some of the things that we need to get done. At least one of the issues, he is adding education to the special session, so that I think it's Bill 1968 that your legislative leader wanted in there. And I'm working with the senators to make sure that they get it into the special session. That's the way you do that. You don't go out and burn bridges. You get things accomplished, and I can do that and unite the party and bring us ahead. Thank you very much for allowing me the time to speak to you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay. Next person. Oh, Dave, we got you. You need to be unmuted. Did I do it? Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Well, thank you, Tony Ann, for this forum and the ability just to communicate our message to so many folks today. I am asking for your support to be the Republican Party of Texas chairman, because I have a heart for our party. I love our party. I want to see us advance our platform and our legislative priorities. Things that motivate me are things like life, and that it's from conception until natural death. Things like children, and that we have to stop child abuse and this gender modification where it's unconscionable. Things like fighting for our Second Amendment when the Biden administration wants to attack us, and the way they're trying to shut down our economic opportunity through regulations in the EPA. I want to fight for our Texas values. That's what has given me and my family opportunity. That's what I have done well through. And so I want to come in and through a bottom-up approach, serve and work for you. You can learn more about me at my website, which is covey4rpt.com. I appreciate this time, and God bless you.
Thank you, Dave. Matt, we're going to go but now to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the chance to talk with you all here today. I think the coming year and after the convention in the next 2 years is going to be so very important. Where we are as a party is a pretty good place. We live in Texas. Republicans have controlled every statewide office since the early 90s, have controlled both houses of the legislature since the early 2000s. We are starting from a great place, and we can continue. First, we need the foundations that keep our party strong, managing good people, raising money. But we can't forget about issues. I mean, that's ultimately our brand. That's ultimately what creates outreach. And one thing Chairman West has done, I think, very effectively, is build on that grassroots outreach. And I would like to even build on it more as chair. Because in the end, it's people that make up the Republican Party. It's issues that draw in people. And then it's those people who provide the outreach to even more. So here in Texas, we do have a bright future. We're starting with Republican control of virtually every section of government. And our goal as a Republican Party is to build on that and show the entire country that Republican control of government results in policies that are going to make people's lives better, because we're the hope for the rest of the country right now. And the Republican Party of Texas needs to provide that. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. And Chad, you're going to wrap us up here.
Tony Ann, thank you. Viewers, we appreciate you. I'm Chad Wilbanks, and I'm running to be your next Texas GOP chairman. You've heard a lot of people talk about finances. That's because there's concern about the fundraising within the party. There's uncertainty about the transparency. As chairman, one of the things I've told SREC members I'm going to do is we're going to institute a purchase order system so we know exactly how much money leaves the RPT. And if we have a vendor or someone that's wanting money from the party, well, they need to have a purchase order assigned to that money they want. Now, we're the party of ideas. We always have been, because ideas matter. But just because we're in the majority, we cannot rest on our laurels. The Republican Party is the party of freedom, individual liberty, faith, family, conservative values. Our opponents, well, take a look. Critical hate theory, late-term abortions. They defunded the police. They oppose voter ID. They release criminals from jail. They abolished bail. They support illegal immigration. They remove God from our schools. They praise the destruction of our history. And they think it's okay for biological males to participate in women's sports. We need a chairman that's ready to plant our flag, reclaim our liberty from the Marxist Democrats. You can find more information about me at Wilbanks or TexasGOP.com. My phone number is 512-423-0049. If you have additional questions, or you can email me at chad@chadwilbanks.com. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless this great state of Texas.
Thank you, Chad. I just want to say thank you to all four of you. I appreciate you guys all stepping up, your willingness to serve our state, our party, which, you know, the way Texas goes, the nation goes. So it's so important to be a part of that. You were awesome. Karen, you're a great timekeeper. I'll tell you, we got to keep this gal on, right? And then also want to thank Bisa Martin, Shirley Martinez, and Pat Hastings for helping to take all these questions that we could and make them the best the top ones that we could choose from. But gentlemen, I'm encouraging people, because there were a number of questions that came into chat, to go to you directly and to ask you these questions, because it's important. And maybe we will share these also with some of the people that are going to have forums here in the future. So before I close, we're a couple minutes past, but a couple action items. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, go to your SREC members. They're the people that are voting. Let them know what you feel and have any dialogue with them. You can go to texasgop.org to find their information and to communicate with them. Also, the last thing is, not the last, very last, but be aware, because we go into special session July 8th. We will have our next call will be on our Zoom call will be July 9th. But I want you guys to be ready and willing to go to the Capitol to support our legislators to get this legislation through. It's all about you to make it happen. So all of you, thank you so much. We were close to 350 people on this call. Pretty awesome to have so many people participate this early in the morning. Thank you, and God bless you, and have a fabulous weekend. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.